네, 그러면 웨비나 시작하겠습니다. 네, 안녕하십니까. 저는 주한이스라엘대사관 경제무역대표부의 송지훈 상무관이라고 합니다. 오늘 바쁘신데도 불구하고 이렇게 자리를 참여를 해주셔서 감사드립니다. 오늘 이스라엘 여성 건강 기술 FEMTech에 대한 대표적인 이스라엘 기술업체들 원래는 5곳을 모셨었는데 오늘 좀 갑자기 한 군데 업체가 사정 때문에 참여를 못하게 돼서 4군데 업체에서 발표를 하도록 하겠습니다. 발표 시작 전에 저희 경제무역대표부 대표이신 타마르 코샤 대표님의 인사말을 해주시겠습니다. 타마르, please have an intro of this webinar.
안녕하세요. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon time. We are very happy in the Israeli Economic and Trade Office here in Seoul, representing the Israeli Embassy, to host 4 amazing Israeli companies here to present their outstanding technologies and solutions in the medical field. All companies are going to demonstrate and brief you and show you more about their technology and solutions. And we are very happy to have you here with us. We would love to offer you to set meetings one-on-one with the different companies to learn more and explore business opportunities. And we are happy to host you here. Thank you and 감사합니다.
Thank you, Tamar. 다음으로는 본 행사의 공동 주관을 하고 있는 이스라엘 수출공사에서 그 헬스케어 사업 개발 담당을 하고 계시는 알베르토님의 인사 말씀 있으시겠습니다. So Alberto, please have an intro of this webinar.
Thank you, Jihon. I would like to thank you, the economic mission to South Korea and Tamar and all the Israeli companies and attendees that joined the webinar. I am Alberto Spizzichino. I'm the Business Development Coordinator for the health tech sector at the Israel Export Institute. The Israel Export Institute is an NGO, is a non-profit organization with the aim to upscaling and developing the business with foreign countries on behalf of Israeli companies. We do it with some activities such as the organization of the Israeli pavilion at international exhibition. We organize outgoing and incoming delegation for Israeli companies, scouting for Israeli companies, and many other activities. That's what the Export Institute does. We're happy to be here and coordinating this event together with FTA. So please, let's start with the pitchings. And the first, I guess, is IceCure. Rafael?
Yes. Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I think I will join Tamar and Alberto and say hello to everyone and thank you for inviting us to participate in this event. In the next couple of minutes or 15, 20 minutes, I'll briefly take you through IceCure's technology, focused treatment, science behind the treatment, and potential markets. If we have time, I can deep dive into the clinical evidence that we have so far. So we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to share my screen now. Just tell me that you can see everything. Okay. Alberto, can you see?
No, the screens.
No. I'm now on sharing mode like we did in this morning when we tried.
Maybe. Okay, I guess.
Now it's working.
Yeah,
yes, Rafael, now it's working.
I was just going to say, I did exactly the same thing I did a few minutes ago. So, okay. Okay. Technology, mysterious ways. Yes. Okay, so should I begin?
Please.
All right. Okay. So basically, the company's name is IceCure, and as its name predicts or maybe hints, we treat cancerous lesions by freezing the tissue. I'm saying this before I deep dive into the presentation, just to give the big idea of what the company focuses on and does. So just a bit of a background of the company. iSecure is an Israeli medical device company. It was founded, as it says here, in 2006, mainly to advance treatment of benign and cancerous tumors. The primary focus was on breast cancer, but other indications have evolved over time, and I will go into them as well. The company develops and markets an advanced liquid nitrogen-based cryoablation therapy. The technology sets new standards and high standards in tumor therapy for women's health, as well as interventional radiology. The flagship product is the ProSense. I will dedicate a slide or two to the ProSense to take you through the system to see how it works. Of course, it's effective and it can replace surgery. I will show you the mission statement in a moment, but okay, I'll wait for that. Generally about the company, and I'm not going to go into the names, it's just to give it an overall that there is a vast team on the company. The team, every individual brings extensive experience to the table and have been around in the medical device arena for quite a few years. So there's a lot of experience in the company. And I'm going back now to our mission. So, I can read the mission and to become a gold standard cryoablation therapy by providing superior, safe, fast, and cost-effective, minimal invasive treatment. But what I mainly want to say is that this company, in some sense, is impacting and is going to change the course of cancer treatment. Maybe just to give it in a nutshell, if we go back to breast tumors and cancers, lesions, the most popular treatment is some sort of surgery. It can be a lumpectomy, or in severe cases, a mastectomy, which is basically removing the entire breast. iSecure's treatment offers a solution which would leave the breast as it is, which would freeze the tissue and allow the course of life to continue without having to remodel a woman's breast. So I think there is a big impact here. It might not indicate for all cases, and it might not be for the sizes, for different sizes, but there is a very big percentage of women in the world that can go through this treatment and maybe have a different course of treatment and life that follows. What is cryoablation? So we've spoken about it. So basically, in a nutshell, it is freezing the lesion or the cancerous tissue. The actual freezing process destroys the cells. Of course, there is a cycle of freezing and thawing and freezing. I will get to that later. But in a whole, the freezing of the tissue destroys the cells, and with that, eliminates the tumor to continue growing and presence in the body. Hang on, why is it jumping? Okay. So company highlights, and really every highlight here has its own slide. So I'm just going to briefly give you the highlights, and then we can continue. So every company, of course, has to prove itself, and of course have a POC back in the beginning. But at the end of the day, it's results. And today, iSecure is leading and nearly finishing a breast cancer trial in the US, which has been in process now for quite a few years. In fact, as you all know, when evaluating cancer treatment, we need 5 years follow-up from the last patient which enters the trial. And this is where we are at the moment. And I will give you a bit more information when I get to that slide about where we stand with the ICE3 breast cancer trial. FDA regulatory approval we have in 15 countries, including the entire EU, as well as in countries in the Far East. And I will go into the countries as well because today we are present in Japan, Thailand, Australia, Taiwan, China, of course. So we are present globally, from west to east, and of course in Europe. Distributors we have all around the world. I have show you later a map. I think that's basically for the highlights at the moment. As I said before, the FDA approval for general minimal invasive cryoablation application where the specific indications are including liver, kidney, neurology, fibroadenomas, and of course, MSK, which is skeleton bone cancer. The CE, as stated before, is for benign and malignant tissue, and this includes breast as well. And like I stated before, as you can see here, the rest of the world covers countries in the East, and of course, Mexico and countries in Central America as well. What's not updated on the slide is that we are now moving and progressing into Canada as well. So if you look at the map, globally, we have presence just about everywhere. Okay, so what is the ProSense and how does it work? And before maybe going into it, you can see the system on the right-hand side of the screen. Yes, it's a system, it has presence, but it's not huge. It has wheels and it is mobile and office-based. And this is an important feature for the system because the system is not limited to the room that it's in. And liquid nitrogen as a gas is something that can be found and is accessible, and it's not a problem to reach out and to acquire, to have based in your office or hospital, wherever you are doing the treatment. So the actual system is performed under guided CT or ultrasound. In general, the probe is inserted into the tumor. Then liquid nitrogen, and this is maybe the essence of the system, or the ability is the fact that the system knows how to take liquid nitrogen and to deliver it through a very small diameter probe, creating sub-zero temperatures, and basically to turn the whole lesion into an ice ball. The freezing will engulf the tumor, will freeze the lesion, and as I said before, destroy the cells, which the body will at some stage will just absorb, and there will be nothing left a few months following the treatment. Another very big advantage, and I'm not going into comparing to thermal ablation at the moment, but another big advantage of the ice ball and the treatment itself is the fact that you can see the physician, the radiologist in this case, can see to what extent and to where the freezing has reached. You can see the margins, and by that, you can control which tissues are affected and which are not. When doing thermal ablation, radio frequency or microwave, yes, the whole area is covered, but the physician hasn't a clear vision of how much he is now above and around the actual targeted area. Is he destroying cells that are not intended to be here? The ice ball dictates the area and the margins of the tissue which are in treatment and affected. Okay, so the system you can see on the left-hand side. On the right is a picture of the touch screen with the probe itself and the beginning of the formation of an ice ball. The handle comes in two basic configurations. We have a straight handle for the breast applications and a 90-degree handle for interventional radiology applications such as kidney and liver and so forth. And of course, we have the dewar, which is just canisters which hold and contain the liquid nitrogen during and for the procedure itself. Okay, so the cryoblade is actually quite unique in the sense that it has an active area. When you look at the picture on the right-hand side, you can see an illustration of the ice ball created. with the different isotherms and the different freezing zones and temperatures. And what's interesting and important to see here is that the distal tip of the probe is the active area. There is a safety mark marked over there, which basically will be inside the body of the patient, and that basically limiting the freezing point to where the surgeon or the physician wants to be, and by that not affecting the subcutaneous and the skin, or just affecting healthy skin that we do not want to be affected. The cryoprobe is easily placed. It comes in a few configurations, so we have different diameters with different lengths, and each diameter has a different ability to create a different shape of ice ball, from elliptic to spheric. It depends on the tumor being treated, the shape of the tumor. Not always tumors are like in the textbooks, so sometimes you have to adapt and freeze with different shapes. The introducer is another aspect and component of the system, which is made from two pieces, a cannula and a mandrel, and it's just to access easily the actual area. It's good for navigation, and of course can be used for biopsy following the treatment. Here we have a quick comparison to radiofrequency and microwave. I'm not going to deep dive into it. I can just say that the first 3 points, which speak about pain, the need for anesthesia, and imaging guidance are important, and of course the accuracy. And I think that's for me that's the main things. I mean, if there's a significant reduction in pain, and not always the need to have full anesthesics when treating the patient, I think these are very, very strong advantages for the patient as well for the physician. But again, I'm not going to go now into the comparison. Okay, and as I said, yes, we are focused on breast tumors, but interventional radiology, which includes kidney cancer, lung cancer, bone, and liver cancer, are very, very strong indications which are used on a daily basis around the globe as we speak at the moment. Okay, do we have time, Alberto?
You can go further. Yeah.
You have a couple minutes more, yeah.
Okay. So maybe just a bit about where we are. So as I said, the primary focus was targeting the large women's health opportunity, where we divided into two fibroadenomas, which are benign tumors, which are very, very frequent, and of course breast cancer, malignant tumors, where, as you can see, there are over 300,000 each year in the US only. And I'm again emphasizing the word surgery, because when treating with iSkew, there will be no need to have surgery. So it's cost effectiveness, it's less hospital stay. There are many things we can speak about there as well, but just to give you the overall picture. So is it becoming the gold standard? We're on the way. We have various and multiple clinical studies around the world. I will speak about the ICE3 because it's a very significant and big study, which can change and will change how iSkew is perceived. But as I said, there are many clinical studies at the moment. So it is slowly becoming more and more frequent and popular in different markets and countries around the world. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to speak a few minutes about the ICE3. The ICE3 study began quite a few years ago. It's consisting of around 200 patients with breast cancer. It happens simultaneously and is happening in 19 different hospitals around the US. As you can see about the percentages, nearly 98% recurrence-free. Of course, the procedure and satisfaction cosmetic-wise was 100% in both areas. As I said before, when treating, following up, and giving any benchmark or final results regarding cancer, one needs 5 years to be recurrence-free to basically state anything about the treatment. As we speak today, in February 2024, which is a few months down the road, the last patient will have completed 5 years. And this is going to be quite a landmark for ISQ. From that moment, we can publish the final results. And we do believe that this is strongly going to impact the American market as the global market in general. Okay, here is, as I said before, is a slight comparison, or maybe just the pros and cons when looking at the alternative today. And here is a comparison to a lumpectomy, which is a partial removal of the breast. So of course, there's the cost of the surgery, there's the cosmetic outcome, which is not less important, where the patient has to now get used to something new, a new area in the body, which has now been remodeled. It's not always pleasant, there are scars. The recovery time, of course, and of course, the space and the operating rooms needed in the hospital for the procedure. And I'm going back to the beginning. The system is office-based. It can be done in a clinic, can be done in the OR, can be done in the angio suite, but it doesn't have to be done in a hospital, typical hospital OR environment. If you have a CT, and I've witnessed it before around Europe, private physicians in their clinic, they have a CT, they have an ultrasound, sorry, and they are doing it bed-based in their clinic. So it's very, very convenient in that sense. Okay, of course we have, and I'm really just to give you a brief taste of, as I said, there are lots of trials around the world. So as we speak again, we have a very long ongoing lung cancer trial, which is happening in Japan with Professor Nomori. Over hundreds of patients have been treated already. As we speak till today, the results are very good. And this is continuing. And, you know, I'll go back to the ICE3. The ICE3 had 19 different centers when doing the initial recruitment and trial, but many of the centers continue to treat with IceCure with nothing to do with the trial anymore. They've adapted the technology, they like it, and the different hospitals are using it on a weekly and monthly basis to treat patients. So this is just an example of an independent trial in Japan. Here we have another trial from Bnei Zion Center in Israel. Again, over 100 patients. We're speaking about kidney treatment over here. Very, very experienced physicians and very, very promising results. In fact, this center is a specific center in Israel. On a weekly basis, has patients. We all attend. We see the procedures. They are very experienced, and the whole technique and stream flow is very, very, very quick and to the point. I think this is on Noam's name, of course. I think I'm going to conclude at this stage, Alberto. Of course, I'll be here for questions. The main idea, again, was just to give a brief and understanding of the system and treatment. Of course, there is the business model, which I didn't touch at the moment, but we'll be happy to further explore and send presentations if there is interest. I think that's all from my side at the moment.
Thank you, Rafael. It was interesting as usual. Please, Jihon.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Rafael. 그 아이스큐어의 발표를 들으셨고요. 지금 발표 시간이 다 돼서 별도 지금 뭐 질문이나 이런 부분은 아래 저희 처음에 설명드렸어야 되는데 조금 시간이 지나서 제대로 설명 못 드렸습니다. 그 아래쪽에 나와 있는 Q&A 버튼을 누르시고 그 Q&A를 통해서 질문해 주시면은 이 패널리스트 분들께서 답변을 드릴 겁니다. 그리고 혹시 저 패널리스트 분들께서 지금 다른 일정들이 있으시기 때문에 중간에 또 이렇게 자리 이동하실 수가 있는데 그런 경우에는 제가 별도로 그 질문을 전달을 해서 답변을 얻어서 추후에 별도 이렇게 답변을 드릴 수 있도록 그렇게 하겠습니다. 질문은 그 Q&A를 통해서 계속 말씀해 주시고요. 레온 보스턴, I think the mobile OT is actually the second pitch. So I'm wondering you are ready or not.
Yes, hi, I'm ready.
Okay. So 다음은 모바일
Can I share the
ODT의
screen?
Yes, sure. CEO이신 레온 보스턴님께서 발표를 해주겠습니다. The floor is yours, Leon.
Okay, hi, my name is Leon Boston. I'm the CEO of Mobile ODT. Mobile ODT is a FEMTech company. We're involved in cervical cancer. We sell in about 50 countries around the world today. And,
sorry to interrupt. Could you make a full screen?
Full screen, okay, sure. Yeah. Give me one second. That's it?
Okay, perfect.
Good. So every 2 minutes, a woman dies of cervical cancer somewhere around the world. So there are over 300,000 women die of cervical cancer. And the reason why 300,000 women die of cervical cancer is because there are two main reasons. One is poor accessibility, not being able to be in front of the professional. And the second is loss to follow up. So just a bit about Mobile ODT. Mobile ODT has been developed since 2018. We have won various and numerous international awards for our technology, and we've been recognized for our technology in cervical cancer. We have done over 400,000 patients screened with our technology. Mobile ODT today has the largest database in the world of cervical cancer images. And so we develop our artificial intelligence from this huge database of cervical images. So as I said to you, there's two main reasons why so many women are dying from cervical cancer. One is poor accessibility, and the second is loss to follow up. And we'll deal with both of them right now. One of the main reasons why there's a huge loss to follow up is because a woman will spend an enormous amount of time going to have a pap smear, and then 4 or 5 weeks later, the physician may call her back. And we found that the metadata and all the data shows that at least 60% of all women are not going back for that follow-up treatment. And Mobile ODT has developed a program with all its technology to overcome that issue. And we've developed a program, what we call the single sitting program at the point of care, where we can treat 85 to 90% of all women within 45 minutes in a single sitting. And how is that done? We have three main products. One is a product which is an HPV test. It's an HPV antigen test. And this is an HPV antigen test which looks at HPV 16, 18, and 31. These are the most aggressive HPVs. And we can get a result in 10 minutes. We don't need a lab. You don't need to come back. We can get a result in 10 minutes. We've also developed we've developed a colposcope, which is a digital colposcope. It's also battery run. It is a it's one of the most advanced digital colposcopes in the world today, has an incredible ability for image quality. And then we've also developed what we call the Thermoglide, which is a thermocoagulation technology which treats precancerous lesions at point of care. So all these products that you see in front of you overcome the problems. There's two main problems of cervical cancer. One, poor accessibility, because this can be done at any family practitioner or any OBGYN or any nurse practitioner. And second of all, it's done in a single sitting, which overcomes the loss to follow-up. And this is basically our patient flow. You can do an initial screening with our Delphi antigen test, and that's done in the clinic, and within 10 minutes you get a result. If the patient is positive, if the patient is negative, then she goes home and you screen her again in 2 years' time. If the patient is positive, right then and there, when the woman is in the seat, on the chair, you will do a colposcopy test. You will do a visual inspection with our digital colposcope. If she has precancerous lesions, CIN1, 2, or 3, you will do a thermocoagulation at the point of care. There are a certain amount of women that have a high-grade cancer, and these are not treated at point of care. These have to be escalated to a hospital setting. So the program, as I said to you, is suitable for 85% of all patients. So this program in itself has the ability to impact cervical cancer around the world. So we're involved in some of the biggest screening programs in the world today. We're involved in the biggest screening program in India. We have the largest screening camps today are done through mobile ODT. We are now signed an agreement with the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, where we are going to establish over 1,000 clinics over the next 9 months in the Democratic Republic of Congo for screening. And in Argentina, we're very much involved. So the digital colposcope, as you can see in front of you, is a very relatively small colposcope. The black thing that you see at the bottom is a battery which lasts about 30 hours. There are 2 batteries in the kit, so they're constantly charged. We have a built-in camera over here, and these are 2 LED lights over there. And it's digital, so all your images are immediately synced to the cloud and to your portal. So any image that you take is stored on the portal. What we've developed is electronic medical record software, which allows a physician to follow a patient for year after year after year. It'll all be there in a cloud-based portal. There's a lot of different technology on the device itself. We have artificial intelligence, and very soon we're releasing what we call our heat map, which allows a physician to know exactly where to treat the patient. When it comes to thermocoagulation, our thermocoagulation is the recommended thermoablation or thermocoagulation. It's the recommended treatment for precancerous lesions. It's by the WHO, and they recommend thermocoagulation. Our thermocoagulation device, which is called the Thermoglide, is a technology which comes with 4 different probes. It's again also battery operated, and each battery lasts about 30 or 40 patients. It is a very, very safe and very, very easy procedure to do. Nurses and nurse practitioners in many countries are doing this procedure. This procedure is done without the necessity of anesthesia, because the cervix itself does not have nerve endings that are that relate to heat. They only relate to pressure. So this is done without anesthesia. We've got meta-analysis of about 4,500 patients with our technology, with this technology, and the efficacy is about 95-96% for precancerous treatment. It is very, very well tolerated by a woman. It lasts. The process lasts exactly 20 seconds, and the recovery rate is extremely quick. So our last piece of technology is our HPV test. You can see there are many components to this test. We have a specimen collector. This is the plastic specimen collector. This specimen collector is filled with about 3 milliliters of saline. It has 4 little holes at the bottom. It's inserted into the vagina, and you push the top white button, and all the saline is expelled into the vagina. You release that button, it'll be sucked up back. Now you have saline with HPV cells, and you transfer all that saline into a vial over here. We add 2 buffers, and then we add it to a rapid test cassette, just like we did with the COVID. It's an antigen test. And within 10 minutes at point of care, when the patient is in the facility, you will get a result almost immediately. And this is an actual game changer in the world of cervical cancer. So when you look at mobile ODT, let me just go back to the one slide. When you look at mobile ODT has a perfect solution. I don't know why it's not so changing, but it has a perfect solution. There we go. That's the screen I want. It has a perfect solution for a single sitting screen and treat approach, which will solve the cervical cancer program for more than 85% of the women. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Leon. Surely you have enough time to make the answer, but there's no question yet. So let's going forward to the next page. 네, 그 모바일 ODT 지금 발표를 들으셨고요. 다시 말씀드리지만 질문은 지금 그 Q&A 쪽에서 지금 한 분 올려주셨는데 질문은 Q&A 쪽으로 올려주시면은 바로 답변을 드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 모바일 ODT에 질문 있으시면은 지금 올려주시면은 뭐 바로 답변을 드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 다음은 리라 메디컬의 코파운더이자 CEO이신 이람 레빈님께서 발표를 해주시겠습니다. Iram, the floor is yours.
Yes, can you see the presentation?
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see it.
okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Tamar, Jihun, and Alberto for facilitating this conference and inviting us to present. My name is Iram Levit. I'm one of the founders and CEO of the company of Lyra Medical, where we introduced a new concept in pelvic organ prolapse treatment. We incorporated the company about 10 years ago in order to solve one very aggravating problem that millions of women around the world suffer. And back then there was no educate solution. When I'm talking about an educate solution, we're talking about a solution that can provide both the safety and the efficacy that is so required in any medical application. We're talking about pelvic organ prolapse. There are several types of prolapses. It can be an anterior base or a bladder prolapse. It can be a posterior base or rectum prolapse, and it could be an apical or a vault or a uterus prolapse. Most, if not the vast majority, if not all of the prolapses are involving 2 out of these 3 indications. There are, again, millions of women around the world suffer from this aggravating problem. I'm not sure about the exact number and population and prevalence in South Korea, but it's something that is very common around the world. So at this point in time, the mainstay and the first-line treatment is a native tissue repair, or pornography in the more professional terminology. It's a rather safe procedure because it does not involve any implantation of a foreign body, but it was proved to be a very low efficacy. So back then, about 15, 20 years ago, because of the low efficacy of the native tissue repair, they were trying to find a more effective solution, and they found out that the transvaginal implants, so some kind of a mesh that needs to be implanted and fixed or anchored in 4 places in the pelvis, is more effective. And indeed, it was found to be a rather effective solution. But over the years, it exposed patients to not neglected many safety concerns, which are both very frequent and severe. And in order for you to better understand our solution, I'd like to show you the safety concerns that's raised by other solutions, so you could appreciate how we solve this phenomena. So this is an animation of a used to be off-the-shelf solution from J&J called ProLift. It's a mesh that needs to be fixed in 4 points in the pelvis, and the fixation, this is where the problems begin and this is where they end. The fixation mechanism goes in very high proximity of blood vessels and nerves and internal organs and muscles and ligaments, and can damage all these anatomical structures during and after the procedure. The scar tissue that accumulates on the mesh causes shrinkage of the mesh that cause issues later on. The scar tissue accumulation in the fixation point may cause chronic pelvic pain and painful sexual intercourse. The fact that the mesh was shrinked so much that it could not support the organs anymore may lead to recurrence of the prolapse. And last but not least, there were many cases of what they called mesh erosion that stems from the fact that the mesh become bulky, folded, and erode through the vaginal incision. So we at Lyra Medical, again, 10 years ago, had an hypothesis that the risk that associated with all the transvaginal meshes stems from the anchoring itself, and regardless the anchoring method and the implant material. With that in mind, we developed the what we call the SRS, self-retaining support. It's the same concept as far as the mesh being an infrastructure and to hold the material, the anatomical structures, but instead of fixation point, there is a solid support that retains the mesh in place and in shape throughout the healing process and throughout the patient's life. The procedure is rather easy and quite identical to any other transvaginal procedure. We do an incision in the anterior vaginal wall, dissection and separation of the organs, and so to speak, we're creating a pocket or a space where the implant is inserted, like any other transvaginal procedures or implants doing today. After the proper preparation of the surgical area, we insert the implant manually in almost full visualization without the need of trocars or any other surgical tools that are currently being introduced blindly for fixation purposes. The implant is located between the anterior vaginal wall and the bladder and provides not only mechanical support, but the same mechanical support as the natural physiological support, what we call the pubocervical fascia. So the fact that we add this rather simple frame basically eliminates by design all these complications I showed you before. The mesh is being retained in tension by the frame, and therefore there's no bulking and folding, and therefore we don't see any mesh erosions whatsoever in the over 4,000 procedures done to date. When the intra-abdominal pressure is increased while the patient's coughs, laughs, it behaves like a trampoline, and there's no single point that can fail and lead to recurrence. We see in many cases that we also solve urinary incontinence, which is a co-indication with the prolapse. And lastly, there's no shrinkage of the mesh because the frame retains it in shape and in place throughout the entire healing process without any contraction or again foldiness. So what we provide to the table is the anchorless solution, and we believe, and we have data supporting that the anchorless solution, that's what differentiate between us and the other solutions around the world. We reduced until eliminating the mesh complications. We have a very long-term organ support and efficacy result as the same as the safety results. Before introducing the product to the market in Israel and in Europe, we've done 2 clinical studies with 70 patients and 5-year follow-up, and the results speaks to themselves. It doesn't matter if we're looking at our very stringent standard or the industry and regulation standard nowadays. We're talking about a very high anatomical success and very high subjective success. And all this with a very limited adverse event rate. Actually, we had on all a single device related complication. It was a frame erosion that stems from the fact that the implant was oversized, the dissection was not sufficient, and therefore the frame eroded. Till then, we are very we discontinued this size of the implant, and we highlight the importance of the dissection throughout our training processes. So again, both the absolute numbers, but also the comparison of the efficacy and the safety between us and colporaphy, the native tissue repair, and other transvaginal meshes, we can see clearly that we can claim significant superiority both on the efficacy and the safety side. We've done, obviously, completed all our R&D processes. We have a fully functional production line with mass production capabilities, and we have additional products in our pipeline. But at this point in time, we're very focused on this solution. As far as regulation, we have CE. We are CE certified. We have the Israeli Ministry of Health approval. We have regulatory approvals in Colombia and in other territories around the world. We work with leading distributors around the world and in Europe with a strategic partner. And we are cooperating with many training facilities throughout Europe. This is us. This is Dr. Gil Levy, with me, a founder and our Chief Medical Officer. And the inventor of the anchorless solution, and this is Shaul Shochat, our chairman, a serial entrepreneur with involved in many medical device companies, and this is the rest of the team, very professional and concise. So thank you. I'll be glad to take any questions if needed.
Okay, thank you, Iram, for the thorough speech. 네, 말씀드린 것처럼 질문은 계속 올려주시면 되고요. 지금 질문이 하나 올라왔었는데, 아까 발표하신 분께서 다른 일정이 있으셔가지고 아마 자리를 옮기신 것 같습니다. 그래서 올려주시면은 제가 어쨌든 계속 팔로우업을 할 테니까 질문 있으시면 계속 올려주시기 바랍니다. 그리고 마지막으로는 펄스앤모어에서 발표를 하겠습니다. VP 마케팅이신 미라 소퍼님께서 펄스앤모어 기술과 제품에 대해서 발표를 해주시겠습니다. So, Mira, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Okay.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Wonderful. So hello, my name is Mira Sofer, and I'm VP Marketing at PulseNMore. PulseNMore is a company that developed a very revolutionary technology for home ultrasound. I'll just share some information about our company. We are traded in the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. We have a very solid partnership with GE Healthcare, who invested in the company and also serve as the company distributors in key markets. Here in Israel, we collaborate with the biggest HMO, Clalit. We have one launched product, which is dedicated for prenatal care. This is the product that I'm going to share with you today. Just be aware that there are other products in the roadmap for IVF treatments and also for CHF patients. Very heavily patented company with experienced team. And from a regulatory perspective, our devices are approved to sell in Israel and in Europe. And we're now working on our FDA, and Korea would be the next. So I was trying to work with some analogies to explain PulseNMore. So I'm taking you back to 1944. This is IBM's first computer. And as you can see, it's very big. It serves only a small group of experts, and it costs a lot of money. But if we jump 60 or almost 70 years later, this is the IBM Lenovo ThinkPad. It's small, it's in everyone's house. This is part of the information revolution. And this analogy is very much similar to what we're doing at PulseNMore, because looking back at ultrasound, these are the premium ultrasound system. So they're very sophisticated, but they're heavy. They're used by only a small group of people, of experts, and very, very expensive. In time, this concept evolved into a point-of-care ultrasound that serves doctors across different departments and enabled the modality of looking inside the body in a safe way. But PulseNMore is the next generation of ultrasound because, as you can see here, it's small, it's portable, and it connects to the patient personal smartphone. So what PulseNMore is doing is really reimagining ultrasound by using a technology that is intuitive and accessible for patients to self-scan themselves at home. Once they're scanning themselves, all the videos are automatically uploaded to the cloud to be reviewed by remote clinicians. And this enables a remote and hybrid care without the need to call in the patient very frequently to the visit or to the clinic, but actually having the ability to scan at home by the patient themselves and have the reading done by experts in the hospitals. So PulseNMore really divided between the two aspects of ultrasound. The scan itself no longer needs to be done by the doctors. It can be done by the patients. But the diagnostics of the ultrasound should always be done by clinicians. As I mentioned earlier, this is a platform technology that enables us to connect patient with a remote clinician. The flagship product is for prenatal care, while other applications evolved IVF and CHF. So what are the solution basic and how does it work? The patient itself is actually using an ultrasound cradle that is quite cheap and affordable. She buys it and connects the cradle to her personal smartphone. Then the patient needs to download the PulseNMore mobile application. The mobile application actually guiding the patient how to self-scan herself. And she's also using the application to meet the clinicians online. From the clinician perspective, the clinician is using a special dashboard, a special software that enables them to receive all the remote scans, the videos, to interpret them, and also to interact with the patient. There are two different modes of operation. One is synchronous and the other is asynchronous. So the asynchronous mode is called up-guided, and it actually means that the patient is using the application to be guided of how to self-scan herself during the pregnancy. Once the scanning finishes, all the videos are uploaded to the cloud for remote clinician view and feedback. So once the doctors see the different videos, they're checking 3 parameters. They're checking whether the fetal heartbeat, the fetal movement, and if there is a sufficient amount of amniotic fluid. So it's a very binary method of checking the fetal vitality from remote. The other mode of operation is clinician-guided. A clinician-guided meeting is actually a complete online tele-ultrasound visit that is guided and controlled by the clinician. It looks like this in the video. You see the doctor communicates with the patient online. He's guiding her exactly how to self-scan herself. He's getting all the remote images of the fetus, and he can adjust the ultrasound parameters. And this is how they speak, just like all of us are here on this call speak remotely, plus the capacity to receive remote ultrasound videos. Some basic information about the solution. It always involves a clinician for the diagnostics of the clips. Okay, the patient is doing the scanning, but the clinician needs to interpret the data. This is not a toy. Also, we are not aiming to replace the thorough routine diagnostic ultrasound checkups. We just aiming to replace the routine pregnancy clinic visit and enable to alternate them with remote ultrasound visits. In terms of the safety profile of this device, it's very high. We are only using B mode imaging. There is no Doppler and very low frequency of usage. Everything is guided and controlled by the physician, because the physician is the one who is writing the protocol, who is administering exactly how many times he wants the woman to scan. Maybe if she's high risk, she needs more scanning than other women. So it's all controlled by the clinician. And the up-guided mode is based on a predefined, clinically validated scan protocol that was optimized and obviously protocolized and validated. So what are the different benefits of this technology? First, everything related with better resource management and workflow, and more flexibility for the caregiver. Once everything is being done remotely, you can work with a sort of a call center. Just as an example, Clalit, the HMO in Israel, they operate a call center of clinicians who receive all of those remote scanning and interpret them and send to the women the response back into the EMR, the medical records. And this is a great way to improve resource management, because just for an example, due to the technology, there are less ER visits, there are less admissions into the hospital, and all of this obviously is cost saving to the hospitals and to the healthcare systems. There is an earlier detection of warning signs through more frequent monitoring. And there are numerous of babies that we saved and family we saved through our technology, because women were scanning themselves and received an alert from the doctor telling them, please go to the ER because I see, for example, too little amniotic fluid. Or for example, I don't see enough movement. And those women, for example, find out they were delivered very fast. So we were able to save those. And obviously, the more common advantage is really the better access to care, the continuity of care throughout the pregnancy, and increased convenience and satisfaction. Because nowadays, there is no need to trouble the daily life, the work, and our regular life balance. We can do everything remotely, including ultrasound. So we started the collaboration with Clalit Healthcare Services 2 years ago. Clalit are the biggest HMO in Israel. They are responsible for more than half of the population, so 4.6 million members. And this means, from a pregnancy perspective, 83,000 births per year. And until now, since we started the collaboration that enable every pregnant woman who is insured by Clalit can purchase online our device in a very lucrative price, because Clalit are subsidizing it. Until today, there are over 70,000 scans that were generated remotely by our system, and we can have a definitive answer that yes, women can self-scan themselves, even if they're not doctors, because we see that more than 98% of the scans can render clinical judgment. So the system is very reliable, and there are a lot of precision there. We also collaborate here in Israel with the Sheba Tel HaShomer Hospital, which is one of the 10 best hospitals in the world. Sheba has a virtual obstetric department, which is called Beyond. And Beyond are using the PulseNMore home ultrasound technology to replace clinic visits with virtual visits. And this just allows women to continue their work, life, and family routines and receive the highest level of care. And Sheba are doing that after they find out that this telemedicine encounter is significantly shorter than the in-person visit. And of course, it yields greater patient satisfaction. Also, there are a set of studies that are coming out from Wolfson Hospital that really demonstrate how routine home ultrasound telemedicine visits can decrease maternal anxiety and improve maternal attachment, especially in women who had a poor experience with a previous pregnancy loss. So what are the main benefits? And this is just as a recap. We can alternate the routine clinic checkups with remote ultrasound visits. We can get closer monitoring on high-risk patients. We can get closer monitoring on post-term patients. And instead of traveling them to the hospital for 2 or 3 times a week, we can monitor them remotely. The home ultrasound involves with less maternal stress and greater peace of mind and bonding with the fetus, not only for the woman, by the way, but for the entire family. And of course, much greater patient engagement and satisfaction. We will skip that. And as I mentioned, as of last year, we are collaborating with GE Healthcare as our main distributor. They're not exclusive distributor, but they are the main distributor. And these were the slides I prepared, and I'll be happy to answer any question you may have.
Okay, Mira, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Actually, there is one question for you, but then if you agree, I think it's maybe better for make me make an answer, because it's the question is something like the local certificate or the regulation about importing your device into the Korean market. There is something uniqueness of a Korean market situation because of something like a digital health and remote health. So
Yeah.
I will make an answer lively in Korean. 네, 여기 질문에 올려주셨는데요. 그 한국 내 판매 수입을 위한 인증 허가 사항 및 또 원격 진료 영역인데 한국에서 규제나 법규 정비가 안 돼 있다. 뭐 이렇게 말씀해 주셨는데 뭐 여기 지금 오늘 참여해주신 분들 모두 이쪽 그 의료계 의료 장비 계통이나 의료계 쪽에 관련돼서 사업을 하시거나 연관이 되어 있으신 분들로 알고 있습니다. 그래서 아마 그 현재 지금 이런 원격 진료라던가 디지털 헬스가 국내에서는 지금 허용이 아직 안 돼 있고 지금 사용이 어려운 점은 충분히 아시고 계시라고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 거기에 대한 것들을 뭐 제가 추가적으로 말씀드릴 부분은 아닐 것 같고 단지 여기에 대해서는 많은 부분들이 지금 현재 그 국내에서 논의가 되고 있는 걸로 알고 있습니다. 제가 2주 전에 그 원격 의료산업협의회에서 출범 2주년 행사를 했을 때 그 현장에서 갔었고 그 현장에서 또 이 보건복지 쪽 관련된 국회의원님들, 그다음에 의사 선생님들, 또 국내에서 의료 관련 스타트업 하시는 분들 이런 분들 모여서 이제 이 원격 진료에 대한 어떤 논의를 하면서 동시에 그 이스라엘 아까 이제 말씀하셨지만 이스라엘의 시바 메디컬 센터에서 운영을 하고 있는 시바 아크 이노베이션이라는 스타트업과의 어떤 협업을 하는 그 허브를 해주는 센터가 있습니다. 거기에서 이제 발표를 했었는데 지금 뭐 언론에서도 언론에 나온 것처럼 국내에서도 지금 원격 진료라든가 이런 부분들을 하는 스타트업들도 있는데 지금 코로나 때 일시적으로 허용이 됐었고 굉장히 기본적인 전화로 하는 형태로 된 걸로 알고 있습니다. 그래서 그런 부분들이 진행이 되다가 다시 지금 닫히고 있어서 국내 산업도 지금 많이 죽고 있고 또 이게 전 세계적인 어떤 트렌드에서도 좀 이렇게 고립이 되는 형태가 할 수 있다는 우려가 많이 나오고 있습니다. 그래서 원격 의료 산업 협의회에서도 그런 부분에 대한 것들을 많이 얘기를 했었고 관련된 국회의원님들께서도 그 법률적 어떤 정비라든가 이런 부분들을 하시겠다는 말씀을 충분히 해주셨습니다. 그래서 당장은 뭔가 이렇게 진행이 되기가 어려울 거로 생각됩니다. 특히 뭐 보험 수가라든가 뭐 이런 등록을 어떻게 할지 이런 부분들 디지털 헬스 영역에서는 지금 많이 어려운 점이 있는데 언젠가는 될 거라고 저는 믿고 있고 또 제가 개별적으로 만나 뵀던 의사 선생님들 이런 분들도 이런 부분에 대해서 굉장히 관심이 많습니다. 뭐 대표적인 예로 이 펄스앤모어의 장비 같은 경우에는 국내 모 업체에서 비공식적으로 샘플을 하나 들여와서 테스트를 한 적이 있습니다. 그래서 그 업체에서 테스트를 했을 때 굉장히 이 성능에 대한 부분은 만족스러웠고 뭐 이렇게 진행됐던 부분이 있고 작년에 저희가 이런 웨비나 형태로 해서 아까 말씀하셨던 시바 비욘드와 바이오빗 그다음에 타이토케어라는 그 이스라엘 웨어러블과 원격 진료 업체에서 참여를 해서 또 거기에 대해서도 기술 소개를 하고 어떻게 또 시바 비욘드에서 어떤 식으로 원격 진료를 하고 있는지를 직접 보여준 사례가 있습니다. 그래서 거기에서도 보이는 것처럼 이 원격 진료 부분은 지금 많은 부분에서 이 환자들에게 좋은 그 긍정적인 어떤 효과를 가져올 수 있는 기술이라는 게 이스라엘을 통해서 드러나고 있기 때문에 이런 부분들을 충분히 인지하고 계시고 의료계 관계자들께서도 그래서 어느 정도 정비가 되면은 뭐 이 국내에서도 충분히 활용을 할 수가 있고 또 뭐 이스라엘 제품을 국내에 들여와서 이 펄스앤모어나 여기 참여해주신 다른 업체들 같은 충분히 수입을 해서 국내에서 활용할 수 있는 부분들도 충분히 기대를 하고 있고 또한 국내에서 관련된 이 기술 스타트업들도 그런 형태에서 힘을 받고 또 이 의료계를 더 한층 발전시킬 수 있는 그런 환경이 조성이 되지 않을까 저는 기대를 하고 있습니다. 뭐 답변이 되는지는 모르겠지만 좀 제가 막 장황하게 얘기를 했지만 좀 곧 미래에 좀 그런 부분들을 봤으면 하는 게 제 개인적인 바람입니다. 감사합니다. 네. 그리고 오늘 이렇게 4개 업체에서 오늘 미카 AI는 좀 참여가 어려워서 그 미팅 신청을 해주신 분들께는 제가 별도로 연락을 드려서 또 말씀을 드리겠지만 그 외에 나머지 4개 업체에서 참여를 해주셔서 이렇게 기술 소개도 해주시고 또 다른 지역에서 어떻게 사용하고 있는지 사례를 발표해 주시는 좋은 시간이었습니다. 제가 끝 마무리로 한 가지 좀 말씀을 드리면은 저희도 이스라엘 경제무역대표부는 이스라엘에 있는 기술, 제품을 국내에 소개하는 다양한 업무를 하고 있습니다. 저는 이제 의료 헬스케어 쪽 담당을 하고 있어서 이렇게 이런 웨비나 형태로 해서 주기적으로 또 이런 이스라엘 기술을 소개를 드리고 있고 또 여기 나와 아마 화면 보실 것 같은데 메디카 행사에도 매년 또 국가가 참여를 합니다. 여기 수출공사에 계신 알베르토님이나 이런 분들이 또 같이 조인을 해서 이스라엘 국가도 개설이 돼서 거기에 대해서도 또 많은 기술 업체들이 참여를 해서 뭐 디지털 헬스뿐만이 아니라 전통적인 어떤 의료 기술, 의료 소모품 이런 것들도 보여주고 있으니까요. 제가 계속 오늘 등록을 해주신 분들, 참여해주신 분들께는 계속 여기와 관련된 정보를 계속 제공을 해드릴 겁니다. 그래서 독일, 특히 11월 달에 있는 메디카에 독일에서 직접 참여하시는 분들께서는 관심 있는 업체들과 또 저를 통해서 저한테 말씀해 주시면 제가 미팅이나 이런 것을 통해서 말씀 나누실 수 있도록 준비를 해드릴 수 있으니까요. 언제든지 필요하시면 말씀해 주십시오. 추가 질문이 하나가 들어왔습니다. 네. 요거 답변을 먼저 하고 그다음 마무리를 하도록 하겠습니다. Mira, there's a question to you. That is possible to diagnose premature birth. So how much accurate is the diagnosis of premature birth? That's one question. And secondly, I think it can be harmful to the baby using the ultrasound. Do you explain there's any possibility to the harmful impact to the fetus, health of fetus of using the ultrasound?
Yeah, so the ultrasound is super safe. First of all, ultrasound in general is a very safe modality, and this is why it's used very frequently in the medical domain. But specifically our device, because it's very low frequency and only uses B-mode imaging, the safety profile is very, very high. So even if there is extended usage, and in our device, you can use it up to 50 times throughout the pregnancy, it's completely safe and create no harm to the patient or the fetus at all. Of course, in terms of the limitation of the device, the capacity is 50 usage, but normally here in Israel, the average usage is 12 times throughout the pregnancy. There is only a small number of women who use it more than that. And Jihun, what was the first question, please?
Regarding the diagnosis of premature birth, the question is how much accurate we can identify the possibility of premature birth.
You mean preterm birth?
Premature birth. I mean the early birth before the planning the time. I don't know. There's a Korean term.
הכוונה ללידות מוקדמות. Mira.
Yeah, preterm birth. Okay, so we're actually now investigating the topic of preterm birth, and I can just very high level tell you that the first indications that we have for the cohort of patients that were using the PulseNMore device, there were significantly less preterm birth versus the control group. So we already submitted an abstract about it to the upcoming SMFM meeting. And in February, I will be able to more openly discuss this data because right now we're waiting for it to be presented. But really super exciting results from this study that have a lot of implication from a clinical and economical perspective. Because indeed, preterm birth is the most problematic issues in pregnancy care, very costly negative outcome, and our technology was proven to have the capacity to reduce the rate of preterm birth.
Another question is the question about the unit price. Because it's there's a process of birth, so there's something there's a good advantage of using the PulseNMore device, but then after the birth, naturally there's a less frequently use of device or the no longer use in the future. So so the question is how you can propose or something like a tentative or the attractive price to the user. But then I think you may explain something in the use case, the price of case of price in other region.
Yeah, I just roughly say that the price of the unit and the service is less than $1,000. Here in Israel, it's significantly less because Clalit are subsidizing the service. But in general, in Europe, we see that the service can get to the end user in less than $1,000. And I think this price for one pregnancy is completely reasonable, because you can go to a routine checkup and pay a similar amount. So having a complete your own device and remote diagnostics throughout the entire pregnancy in such a price is super attractive.
So is there any case that in the use case of after birth, the user is how to handle the device?
No, after the birth, there is no usage of the device. It's just a single pregnancy device. But here in Israel, we see, because we started the collaboration with Clalit 2 years ago, we already see second users that it's their second pregnancy and they're buying the service again, which is the best indication for us of how viable this technology is.
So in Israel, once the mother is having a birth, how they can handle with the device? Is it returned back to hospital, or is there any
it's
case?
just been she needs to recycle it in the electronic recycling bin. She just puts it in the electronic recycling bin.
Okay, understand.
June, maybe there are other questions for our other guests. Leon and Iram and Rafael are also here to get some questions.
I think there is no further question. So anyway, 혹시 추가적인 질문이 있으시면은 저한테 메일로 주시면은 제가 지금 채팅창에 제 메일 주소를 아마 다 알고 계시긴 할 텐데, 저한테 메일로 주시면은 제가 거기에 대해서 답변을 얻어서 말씀을 드리거나, 또는 뭐 추가적인 어떤 그 미팅이 필요하시면은 제가 지금 여기 폴 창을 띄웠는데요. 뭐 여기 오늘 참가한 업체들 중에서 별도의 미팅을 희망하시는 분들, 뭐 등록하실 때 또 해주시는 분들도 있는데, 그런 부분도 제가 한꺼번에 다 수집을 해서 별도 연락을 드리고 뭐 일정을 잡아서 미팅을 어레인지를 하거나, 또는 메일로 이렇게 말씀 나누실 수 있도록 그렇게 준비를 하도록 하겠습니다. 네, 더 이상 질문이 없으시면은 오늘 그럼 시간을 마치겠습니다. 오늘 바쁘신데도 불구하고 이렇게 참여해 주셔서 감사합니다. 그리고 언제든지 필요하신 것 있으시면은 또 이스라엘 쪽 기술이나 제품, 헬스케어 관련된 내용들 필요하시면은 언제든지 저에게 연락 주시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다. To all the panelists, thanks so much for having your valuable time. I think it's a quite insightful session today. So I'm gonna deliver all the questions separately. Contact me, or also I'm gonna arrange all the meeting requirements from the Korean side. So I will contact you separately. Thank you so much. And Alberto, especially thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, so goodbye.
Bye-bye.